They called him useless, a failure, cast out by his own team and left to rot in the dungeon's endless night. His cries went unanswered, his hope shattered. But in that silence, something answered. The darkness itself reached out and forged him into something far beyond human. From the depths where no light dares to shine, he rose with power that defied gods and an army that bows to no king. Now, the weakling they abandoned has returned, not for mercy, but for vengeance. The story begins in a magical world shared by 9 races. Dragonutes, elves, onests, dwarves, demons, dark elves, centaurs, beastfolk, and humans, from whom a young adventurer called Light was born. Wanting to give his family a better life, Light says goodbye to his hometown and sets out to explore for money and power. After reaching a big city, Light gets shoved around by the crowd, but he continues searching for the Adventurers Guild. When he finally enters the guild, he introduces himself to the receptionist, who asks if he wants to register as a fresh adventurer. As he nods, she explains that he'll start from the lowest F rank and then asks if he has a special ability. Light responds that he has an unlimited gacha ability, which allows him to roll for random cards and summon them. To demonstrate, he summons a broken fork in front of her, leaving the receptionist completely speechless. Embarrassed, Light tries to act like silverware isn't the only thing he can summon, but his next rolls just give him a bunch of rotten snacks. Light feels disappointed that his luck has decided to betray him at the worst possible moment, and the receptionist confirms that he deserves the pathetic F rank. After receiving his adventurer's card, he asks her for some quests, and she tells him to check the guild's job board. At the mention of job posts, Light looks awkward, and the receptionist quickly realizes that he can't even read the board. Feeling pity for her uneducated fellow human, she kindly reads out the job posts for him. Feeling excited to finally earn some real money, Light happily accepts the boring tasks. After a full day of hard work, he finally earns enough money to rent a room. However, a gang of beastfolk knocks him down and starts bullying him as their leader picks up his hard-earned money. Light begs him to have mercy, but the cruel wolfman only laughs before knocking him back with a hard uppercut. The wolfman taunts Light for begging for spare change and coldly leaves with his laughing gang. Even the surrounding crowd ignores Light while he lies on the ground, until a kind elf helps him up. Light gets surprised by the many adventurers surrounding him and backs down in shock. Seeing how frightened he is, the elf hugs him to comfort him, even as the passers-by mock her. Shocked that a pretty elf would get dirty for his sake, Light allows her to help him stand. The adventurers then introduce themselves as members of the Concord of Tribes. A beast man named Geru explains that each member represents one of the 9 races, and the elf introduces herself as Sasha. She introduces the rest of her companions: Drago, Diablo, Obero, Nano, Sion, and Santor. With 8 of the 9 races already represented, Light learns that the Concord is searching for a human member to complete their unity of all races in the world. As Geru reaches out his hand to invite him, Light feels stunned that someone actually needs his help, then happily accepts the invitation. Soon, Light begins exploring a cave dungeon called the Abyss with his new group. When a huge worm beast tries to attack him, Geru chops it apart before it can hurt him. But another worm sneaks up behind Light, so Sasha quickly takes it down with her bow. She scolds Light for being careless and reminds him that they are exploring the world's most dangerous dungeon where he could easily die. She sits down and takes care of his wounds. Noticing how she's acting like his mother, the other party members begin teasing Sasha for spoiling Light so much. Blushing furiously, Sasha tries to act like she doesn't care about Light at all, claiming she's just protecting a fellow member. But as the party ignores her weak excuse, Sasha only gets more defensive. Drago steps in and cheers up Light, praising him for making excellent tea for their team. With his spirits lifted, Light follows the group deeper into the dungeon. When the group suddenly stops at a dead end, Light thinks they are about to take a break, so he begins preparing tea. But to his shock, Drago coldly tells him that they don't need the tea, because they're kicking him out of the party. At first, Light thinks it's just a prank, but Drago harshly repeats his words, leaving him stunned. Geru also tells him that he's out, so Light asks why they're dumping him. Geru replies that their group doesn't need him, and Sasha even expresses disgust at his foolishness. Xion and Nano also mock Light for being pathetic, while the demons in the group feel relieved that they can finally get rid of him. Hurt, Light asks why they would be so cruel after all their kindness earlier. That's when Geru reveals that they were just faking their kindness to lure him into their party. Light wonders why such powerful masters would even need him, and Drago explains that it was only because of his special ability. They thought he might be an overpowered maestro, but it turned out his ability was trash. Light protests that his unlimited gacha ability never seemed useful, and Geru mocks him further, saying that as a talentless human, he is just dead weight. Shocked and devastated, Light realizes they were only using him and that it took them this long to finally dump him. Meanwhile, Sasha feels relieved, saying she can now marry her master instead of ending up with the pathetic human boy. Overwhelmed by this shocking betrayal, Light barely has time to react before Drago tells Geru to finish him off. Light suddenly realizes the danger he's in, but as he sees their hostile stares, he understands they plan to kill him to prevent him from ever getting stronger and seeking revenge later. Geru slashes his cheek with his claws, and as Light looks at the blood flowing, the rest of the party watches coldly. Light tries to run, but Sasha shoots an arrow at his leg to prevent him from escaping. Struggling in pain, Light collapses, and Geru takes pleasure in his suffering by kicking him hard in the stomach before brutally beating him. Sasha finally stops him, reminding him that Light's death needs to look like an accident, but Geru only raises his claw for a final strike. As Light desperately crawls, wanting to live, Geru finds joy in watching him struggle. Suddenly, Light's hand presses against a teleportation trap. Drago yells for Geru to kill him before it activates, but it's too late. The trap safely teleports Light away before the Beastman can reach him. When Light wakes up elsewhere in the dungeon, he is still badly injured and thinks that any monster could eat him at this point. As the cold chill of the cave reminds him of his loving family, Light begins to cry. He recalls how kind the Concord had seemed at first, and wonders why they became so cruel, their cold expressions haunting him. He feels anger building up from their betrayal and confusion at how he got caught up with such dangerous people, but his confusion quickly turns into fury as he vows revenge. Light forces himself to his feet, determined to cut down all of them, but suddenly feels a cold gaze behind him. Turning around, he sees a level 1 Orthus beast stalking him. Shocked, Light wonders why such a broken monster would be here, and realizes that the teleportation trap sent him to the deepest level of the abyss. As the Orthus approaches, Light desperately spams his unlimited gacha ability, praying for a miracle. At the last moment, his frantic roll summons a huge magic circle that releases a powerful aura. In disbelief, Light watches as the gacha summons an ancient fairy. Recognizing Light as her master, the mysterious fairy easily chops the monster apart before gracefully landing in front of him. With a flick of her hands, she clears the mess and then humbly kneels before Light, healing all his wounds with her magic. She even apologizes for healing him without permission, saying she couldn't bear to see him injured. Light introduces himself, still in disbelief that he managed to summon the most overpowered fairy in the world. The fairy, captivated by his name, repeats it lovingly before swearing complete loyalty to him. Not knowing who she really is, Light asks for her name. She reveals that she is May, the level 99,999 ever-seeking maid, a super ultra rare card from his gacha. Light can hardly believe it, saying that his gacha only ever produced junk, and there's no way he pulled such a powerful being. But May insists that he completely deserves her, and begs him to accept her. Seeing her pitiful face, Light finally agrees, and May thanks him tearfully. She then asks to examine his gacha ability, revealing that she has the appraisal skill. With his permission, her glowing eyes examine him, and she discovers layers of hidden protections. May explains that the gacha only seemed useless before because Light was in areas with little mana, but here in the Abyss, where mana is supercharged, the gacha absorbed it and boosted his chances of pulling rare cards. She explains the full ranking system of the cards, from extra rank and super ultra rare down to normal and error. Light still doesn't fully understand, so May clarifies that on the surface, he could never summon anything good because there wasn't enough mana. She praises him for figuring out the gacha's true potential by entering the Abyss, even though it was extremely dangerous. However, when Light admits he only entered because of his party, May listens as he tells her about their betrayal. Crying as he recalls their cruel taunts and abuse, Light vents his pain and says he only wanted to earn an honest living for his family. May is devastated by his story, and when he falls to his knees saying he'll never forgive them, she silently hugs him. In her warm embrace, Light finally calms down. May tells him that she may never fully understand his suffering, but she will use all her power to give the Concord their deserved retribution. Shocked, Light tries to stop her, but she vows to line all of them up in front of him in an instant. Light insists that he doesn't want to abuse her power for revenge. Instead, he vows to grow stronger himself and punish the Concord with his own 2 hands. May thinks he is too kind for his own good, but promises her unwavering support. Encouraged, Light smiles as she returns his smile. With May by his side, Light begins using his gacha again, summoning more powerful tools in the Abyss. Fueled by the infinite mana, giant magic circles surround him, summoning ultimate weapons and items. With May watching faithfully at his side, Light begins the first step of his journey, building his empire in the darkness of the abyss, ready to rise stronger than ever before. 3 years have passed since that fateful day, and now Light rules over hundreds of maids inside a grand palace that he built himself. May, as she promised on the day she met him, is always by his side. All the maids seem completely smitten by him, cheering whenever he walks by, their faces lighting up with joy whenever he notices them. While May tries to keep them in line and tells them to behave properly, Light leaves the castle and heads toward the bustling local market. The townspeople immediately recognize him. One of the vendors calls him over for breakfast, while others approach him to complain about a shortage of snack foods in the country. Light smiles and promises to handle the problem soon, but May quickly interrupts, telling him not to concern himself with such trivial matters. She insists that she'll personally ensure the logistics issue is resolved as soon as possible. Listening to her, Light realizes that he will have to create a new logistics system altogether, since the population of his city has grown several-fold over the last 3 years. Curious about his team, he asks May where the rest of his legendary summons are. May replies that Yuki, the beast tamer, is currently busy crafting maps of the areas surrounding the dungeons and scouting the nearby forests for any signs of trouble. Light briefly thinks about all the dangerous monsters that must be roaming through those woods, but knows that none of them would pose a threat to a genius beast tamer like Yuki. May continues, saying that Ellie, the mage, is still hard at work trying to create the complex spells that align with Light's grand plan. Light wonders whether Ellie can truly manage such difficult magic, considering the number of intricate components involved in the spells he asked her to create. He then asks about Naz, the vampire knight, who is excellent at close combat but rather dumb in other areas. May sighs and replies that she assigned Naz to patrol the castle grounds, saying it's the best way to keep her from using her empty brain and getting herself into any kind of trouble. Light laughs softly at that, saying he doesn't really mind her antics. After all, she makes life around the castle far more entertaining. Soon, they return to the castle where Jack, the last of Light's 4 legendary summons, calls out to him, asking if he's ready for some training. May looks slightly annoyed and sternly tells Jack that he should address Light properly as master. But Jack, being the kind of person who doesn't care about such formalities, completely ignores her. Light tells May that it's fine since he considers Jack more like an older brother than a subordinate, and he decides to join him for training. Inside the training grounds, both of them take their stances, and with a sudden burst of speed, Light rushes forward and lands a solid punch right into Jack's rock-hard abs, pushing him backward with surprising force. Jack grins, impressed by Light's power, and comments that any normal adventurer would have died from a hit like that. But since he's built like a tank, he can handle it easily. They clash again, meeting in the middle of the ground as their fists collide with tremendous force before backing away from each other. Light immediately follows up with a rapid barrage of strikes, which Jack dodges skillfully. Meanwhile, Naz continues her patrol through the corridors, humming a tune and moving along cheerfully. Some of the maids stop her, smiling sweetly and showering her with compliments, saying they feel so safe knowing that she's always on patrol to keep danger away. Delighted by their words, Naz grins happily, exactly as the mischievous maids intended. They decide to play a prank on her and suggest that she should go and check Light's bedroom to make sure everything there is safe and secure. Taking the suggestion completely seriously, Naz nods and rushes toward Light's chambers. But just as she tries to open the door, May steps out from inside the room. Surprised, Naz asks what May was doing in Light's bedroom when he's clearly away training at this time. May immediately blushes and nervously claims that she was simply cleaning the room while he was away. Naz insists that she must inspect the room herself to ensure no threat is hiding inside. Before May can stop her, Naz pushes past and enters the room, only to notice that the bed is ruffled, the pillows dented, and everything looks suspiciously messy. With her usual cluelessness, Naz blurts out that it looks like someone was rolling around on the bed and sniffing the pillows, then innocently asks if May intentionally made it look that way. Thinking quickly, May decides to turn the situation in her favor and confidently replies that it's her special bed-making style. Naz looks impressed and immediately asks if she can learn how to do that as well, but May refuses, claiming it's a personal trade secret. Before Naz can ask more questions, she suddenly remembers that the maids had given her a message to deliver to May. She takes out a parchment and hands it over. Reading it, May realizes that the maids are revolting against her because she always monopolizes the task of cleaning Light's bedroom and never lets them do it. Trying to stay composed, May tells Naz not to worry about it and that she'll handle the issue herself. To keep Naz quiet about what just happened, May hands her some spare coins as a bribe. Ecstatic, Naz skips away happily, heading straight to the market to spend her newfound fortune. After looking through various stalls, she finally decides to treat herself to fluffy pancakes and a glass of fresh milk. Feeling pleased, she marches back toward the castle, where she spots Yuki sitting on a high balcony. She asks whether Yuki's work in the forest is done. Clearly exhausted and unimpressed by Naz's childishness, Yuki holds up the completed map and says she's already finished what May requested. Naz congratulates her and returns to her patrol, eventually entering the grand throne room. Seeing it empty, she starts yelling and singing loudly, enjoying the echo. Then, feeling playful, she jumps onto the throne itself, pretending to give royal orders. In her carelessness, she accidentally breaks one of the wings off an angel statue beside the throne. Horrified at what she's done and terrified of May's wrath, she hurriedly tries to stick the broken piece back in place before bolting out of the room in a panic. Back in the training grounds, Light and Jack continue sparring until Jack decides they should call it a day and go relax. They head to the enormous bathing hall, where they soak in the warm water. Jack praises Light for learning so quickly and says that with his current power, the monsters in the dungeon would be child's play for him, and only a handful of people on the surface could even challenge him now. However, he warns Light that there are still some out there who would destroy him the moment they got the chance. Light's expression darkens as he remembers the betrayal he faced 3 years ago. He clenches his fists and vows that he won't stop until he gets his revenge. Meanwhile, in her chambers, May summons the 4 troublesome maids and reads their letter aloud. The maids freeze in fear, unable to speak. They quickly apologize, claiming that the letter was only meant to show support because they know how overworked May is. May coldly tells them to stop worrying about her work and focus on their own. She denies their request to clean Light's chamber and instead punishes them by ordering them to clean the long hallway leading to the throne room by hand. The maids gasp in horror, protesting that the hallway is too long, but May insists they do it, saying it will keep them busy while she's away on a mission with Light. Later, Naz is outside a shop window, staring at a shiny new gauntlet that she desperately wants but can't afford. While she's daydreaming, Ellie appears and asks what she's looking at. Naz points to the gauntlet and then asks Ellie why she's back so soon, since she was supposed to be supervising the new construction project. Ellie smiles and says the construction is going smoothly, so she decided to sneak in a short break. The two soon start bickering, as usual, arguing about who is closer to Light and who is more important to him. Ellie brags that she's directly involved in Light's revenge plan, and even mentions that she recently had a lovely tea evening with him to discuss progress. She adds with a smug smile that the next time they meet, she plans to have a private dinner with him. Naz pouts and says she wants to have tea with Light too, reminding Ellie that she's an expert in close combat and offering her help anytime. Ellie laughs softly and tells her she'll keep that in mind before walking off, leaving Naz to return to her brainless duty. Back at the castle, the 4 maids who were punished start gossiping again, complaining that May is no better than the angry little mustache man from Germany. They wonder if they should go behind her back and tell Light everything, but none of them dare to face her wrath. One maid points out that the reason Light seems so attached to May is because she was his very first summon. Another adds that it took Light 2 whole months after summoning May to finally summon Yuki, meaning the 2 of them were alone together in the dungeon for that entire time. Overcome by jealousy, the maids start rolling on the floor, ranting nonsense, and even trying to perform voodoo magic to make May disappear. Unfortunately for them, May overhears the commotion and storms into their room. Cornered, the maids panic and apologize frantically, claiming they were just jealous and didn't mean any of it. May crosses her arms and tells them to stop letting their fantasies run wild. During those 2 months, she explains, Light was fully focused on mastering every bit of magic and martial arts he could learn. There was no time for anything else. The maids sigh in relief, thinking they're off the hook, but May continues, saying she came here thinking she'd been too harsh on them earlier, only to realize she actually wasn't. So she orders them to clean the entire throne room as well, since they apparently have enough free time to waste on nonsense. Completely defeated, the maids obey her orders and begin cleaning, deciding to keep their mouths shut this time. But while dusting near the throne, one of them accidentally knocks off the same angel wing that Naz broke earlier. The piece falls to the floor, and the maids freeze in terror, horrified at what just happened and fearing Mei's reaction. The next morning, Light enters the dungeon, where Naz, Ellie, and Yuki are already waiting for him. He greets them warmly, but Naz and Ellie immediately start bickering as usual. Suddenly, a monster emerges from the shadows. A hellhound. Light freezes instantly, the color draining from his face as he recognizes the creature. Though he knows he's far stronger now, the trauma from 3 years ago still haunts him, and his blood runs cold at the sight of it. His party, however, reacts very differently. All 3 of his legendary summons burst out in fury at the sight of the beast that terrifies their master. Naz unsheathes her blade, ready to chop it into tiny pieces, while Ellie asks for permission to eradicate the entire species of hellhounds from existence. Yuki growls that she'd rather find the gates of hell itself and throw this creature straight into its deepest pit. Their combined aura is so overwhelming that the hellhound whimpers and begins backing away in terror, fully aware that it's completely outmatched. Light takes a deep breath, regains his composure, and gently calls his team to stand down. He steps forward, pats the trembling beast on the head, and reminds himself that even a joking command from him could cause his summons to wipe out the entire race of hellhounds from the world. After a moment, he turns back to his team and tells them it's time. They will now head toward the surface and begin their long-awaited plan of revenge. Meanwhile, in Jeru's hometown, the villagers shamelessly bootlick him to get into his good books. While arrogantly striding through town, Guru notices a poor human trying to scavenge some trash, and he kicks him down just for fun. Then, he heads to a tavern and orders a feast with his lackeys, who praise him for rising through the ranks as an orphan and boosting their wolf tribe's status. Guru thinks that he became strong due to his natural sense of perception as a beastman, but his lackeys point out that his sense of perception is the strongest among them. Agreeing with their point, Gao admits that he can always sense which missions have the best rewards, so he's always able to make quick money. Curious, the lackey asks him how much money he got from hunting Light 3 years ago, but he says that it was a secret mission from the Federation, so he can't talk about it. Thinking back, Guru feels like slaying Light was the easiest job ever. He thinks that even though Light fled away, there was no way he survived the dangerous abyss afterward. However, as he remembers that all the countries in their world are looking for a maestro, he wonders why they're so important. Suddenly, his tail shivers from a sense of danger, and Guru decides not to think about deep secrets too much. As his lackeys continue ordering drinks without a care, Mei interrupts their chatting. When she tries talking to Gao, his lackeys start screaming at her for talking to their master without permission. He silences them and asks Mei what she wants. She introduces herself as Light's first maid. At her mention, Gao is shocked and she tells him that she's been searching for her missing master. Mei explains that Light is actually from a noble family and that his family has been searching for him. Gao refuses to believe that a harmless wimp like Light could be from a noble family, but after Mei insists, he decides to listen to her. While he is excited to make money, Mei sheds tears, saying that her master might have perished in the treacherous abyss. In front of everyone's shocked eyes, she offers a briefcase full of pure gold. If Guru helps her see the place where Light was last seen, still feeling like it's a trap, Guru accepts the job since he thinks Mei can't threaten him as a human. On the surface, he acts like Light was a brother from his party and that he would help her see him even without the money. Shedding tears, Mei thanks Gu for his generous offer. A month later, he takes Mei to the abyss. Once they finally reach the dungeon, Mei sweats hard, looking exhausted from all the travel. As Gahu looks back at her, he feels a malicious hunger to complete the mission and use Mei's weakened body to his advantage at her master's grave. Once they finally reach the spot where the Concord betrayed Light, Guru tells Mei that it's where he lost his friend to a monster. As she falls to her knees in despair, Gao apologizes for his party's carelessness that led to the loss of their friend. He silently signals to his minions, who block the exit to the cave. While Guru thinks he's going to have a great time with the foolish girl, suddenly Mei's voice turns cold. She says that it's a pity her master was brought to a dangerous dungeon only to be betrayed by scum party members. Hearing her cold words, a chill runs down Gu's spine, and he backs up in caution. While his lackeys look on in confusion, Guru realizes that Mei is setting up a trap for him since nobody knows what happened to Light except the Concord and their higher-ups. Thinking she's a spy from another country, Guru asks for Mei's identity. She scoffs, saying that she is only loyal to her master, Light. After declaring that she'll make Guru pay for his crimes, Mei looks back with a fierce glare that leaves him paralyzed with fear, thinking that human women are just pieces of meat to use. Guru feels shocked that May has the power to threaten him. As May stares at him like he's a piece of trash, Guru thinks he's dead. However, a hooded figure suddenly appears and stops her before she can take any action. As Light announces that he'll take revenge on Guru himself, Giru's minions start mocking him for threatening them as a pathetic human. Watching in horror, Giru is speechless as Light removes his hood to reveal his face. He smiles and waves at Giru's pack. While the minions wonder who he is, knowing that Light is only level 15, Gao starts laughing at his ideas of taking revenge on a level 150 monster like him. Unamused, Light watches as Guru threatens to use his corpse as a stepping stone for his achievements. However, Light points out that instead of carelessly threatening him, Guru should have been more cautious and asked how he survived the terrifying abyss. Gao agrees, but thinks that he can't threaten him even with May's help. Thinking that Light got lucky to meet her, he feels confident that they can't survive against this pack of level 130 minions. As Light agrees with Gao, his minions rush to attack him. Suddenly, a pile of limbs flies into the air after May effortlessly chops up after declaring that anyone who threatens her master will be turned into food. May guards the dungeon's exit to prevent Gao from escaping. While his remaining minions start panicking, Guru tells them that May only used a sneak attack to catch them off guard, pointing out that humans can be way stronger than his imagination. Light mocks Guru for being so delusional. However, Guru arrogantly refuses to accept reality and says that he'll show Light the true power of Beastmen. Light grows silent, thinking about the discrimination humans have to face because of their weakness. Guru thinks it's only natural that other races are superior, but Light reminds him that his maid just dismembered his minions. Guru says that she must have cheated with a magic item and charges at Light to shut him up. However, Light easily knocks all of them back with his staff on the ground. Guru struggles to regain his bearings as Light walks up to him and mocks him for losing so easily. Feeling his pride hurt, Gao gets up, jumps back, and prepares to teach him a lesson with his ultimate power. He uses a magic crystal to summon a powerful level 500 Fenrir, but Light remains unimpressed while facing the magic beast. Seeing him so calm, Guru thinks that Light has lost his mind from fear. He taunts Light to get on his knees and beg for his life, but Light tells him he'll remain standing in the same spot to let his Fenrir attack. Angered by his taunt, Guru orders his beast to attack, and it starts charging a powerful spell. With a loud roar, the Fenrir unleashes a magic beam at Light, who remains standing on the spot. As the smoke clears, Guru feels confident that his monster vaporized Light. However, his jaw drops after Light appears completely unharmed from the blast. Light mocks Gu's Fenrir for just kicking up a bunch of dust in the air, while the beastmen stare in complete horror. As Gahu realizes just how much trouble he's in, Light tells him that he'll show him a real Fenrir this time. He brings out an ultra-rare card that summons a level 9000 Fenrir Emperor, which completely dwarfs Garu's. At Light's order, his Fenrir blows some soft air, which flies toward Gahu's Fenrir and freezes its entire body. The ice shatters in front of the beastmen, obliterating the fake Fenrir and any hints of Gu's remaining pride. Whimpering like a puppy, Gao asks Light if the powerful Fenrir was his trump card, but Light tells him that he could have easily defeated the Fenrir himself. He finally reveals his true level of 999, leaving Guru trembling in fear as his minions whisper that humans can only reach level 100. Guru thinks that Light is an imposter from another race acting as a human, pointing out that Light still has the body of a child. He says that any human would have grown in 3 years. Light reveals that he is wearing a bracelet of youth that stops him from aging, so he can always remind himself of the pain he suffered 3 years ago. Watching Light's cold eyes, Guru finally believes that he's the real person from 3 years back. Knowing he can't do anything against him now, Guru decides to grovel and beg for his life. He tells Light that he was only acting on someone's orders all those years ago and blames his minions for trying to attack May. His enraged minions scream at him for throwing them under the bus, but Guru ignores them and asks Light for mercy. Light asks him who the maestros are, and Guru says that the Federation ordered him and the others to search for them. As Light asks why they're searching for maestros, Guru explains that he wasn't told the reason. Then Light demands to know why they tried to dispose of him after making sure he wasn't a maestro, and Guru remains silent once again. He swears he truly doesn't know anything, but his minions claim that they have some information to save their lives. However, May cuts them all to pieces for lying. Then, Light turns his attention to Guru, saying he has one more question. He asks Gao if he could win a war against all the races with his power. But before Guru can answer, Light reminds him that Mei can see through lies with her Eye of Truth skill. Terrified, Gao admits that even with his overwhelming stats, he couldn't defeat all 9 races alone, as they've spent hundreds of years stockpiling weapons, armor, and magical items. At his answer, Light nods, agreeing that a single person can't take on the entire world, even if they reach level 999. This leaves Guru confused, and Light tells him that he has some more questions for him once they arrive at his base. He uses a teleportation card that surrounds them all and takes them away, leaving the dungeon floor as a bloodied mess. After opening his eyes, Gao looks around to find himself surrounded by powerful figures everywhere. All of the powerful beasts, maids, and soldiers pay their respects to Light as he walks forward to his throne. After Light ascends the stairs and sits on his throne, he tells his servants to stand straight and show their stats. All of the servants release their auras, with everyone over thousands of levels, each beyond Garu's comprehension. Even the lowest guards are at level 1500. While Light's leading maids are all maxed out at 99999. He tells Gao that these are all his soldiers that he has prepared in the last 3 years, asking if the forces are enough to defeat all the kingdoms on the surface. As Garu struggles to keep his sanity, Light repeats his question, but he gets his answer from the absolute horror on the Beastman's face. He smiles and tells Guru that this overwhelming despair is his punishment for what he did. While Garu thinks that he can obliterate the world at the drop of a hat, with tears in his eyes, he thinks that Light is the strongest person in the world, and even thinks that he's like a deity. As Light notices his expression, Guru asks him if he's trying to become a god. Gripping his staff, Light says that he thinks it's a good idea. In his eyes, the people who tried to hurt him are all hiding something from him, so he thinks he'll become godlike if that's what he needs to get his answers. Light summons his gacha gift, saying it gives him the power to control the world, and declares that he will judge if the world deserves punishment based on the answers it gives him. With his empire ready to fight, he orders his soldiers to head out of the abyss, beginning their war march against the 9 races. The next day, after emerging to the surface, Light's first destination is his hometown. Overwhelmed with anticipation, he eagerly rushes to see his family, but the moment he arrives, he's met with horror. The entire village has been burned to the ground, completely destroyed by an evil party. The sight leaves Light in shock and despair. Grieving this devastating loss, he takes the time to make a spiritual grave for his departed family, paying his respects to the ashes of his home. As he stands silently before the makeshift memorial, Light reflects on the tragedy, feeling both sadness and gratitude that he didn't find the bodies of his siblings, holding on to hope that they might still be alive somewhere. Behind him, a knight named Gold impatiently tells Light to hurry up, saying he doesn't have all day to wait for him to finish mourning. His insensitive words instantly anger Nimue, who snaps at Gold for being disrespectful toward their master. The two start bickering back and forth, leaving Light to wonder whether they genuinely hate each other, or if there's some kind of strange affection hidden beneath their rivalry. Gold continues to tease Nimue, saying that being overly polite can come across as fake and that he doesn't want to sleep out in the open fields. Nimue immediately rebuts that she would gladly sleep wherever Light goes, her determination bruising Gold's pride. Not to be outdone, he declares that he would follow his master to the deepest pits of the underworld out of complete loyalty, though he still grumbles about sleeping outdoors. Light cuts their argument short, reminding them that they have more pressing matters to handle. They need to find out who destroyed his village. Despite their immense power, enough to take on all 9 races combined, Light insists that they must act carefully and gather information first about the hidden strengths of the other nations. Deep down, he believes that the destruction of his village is connected to the mysterious forces of the world, powerful entities who are aware of his true identity and status. Anger wells up inside him as he remembers his parents' fate, and his aura turns bloodthirsty, filling the air with an ominous energy. Gold quickly warns him to control his emotions before they draw unnecessary attention. Taking a deep breath, Light agrees and puts on a fool's mask to conceal his identity, silently vowing to his parents that he will avenge them one day. Once their preparations are complete, the trio takes off into the sky, flying toward the city of Dogus. Mid-flight, Nimue accidentally calls him by his real name, Light, prompting Gold to scold her and remind her to use his alias, Dark, in order to keep his true identity hidden from the 9 races. Light agrees with this precaution and decides that to gather secret information, he must rise through the ranks of adventurers as Dark. His servants both approve of the idea, And before long, the city of Dogas comes into view. To avoid unwanted attention, the group lands outside the city and continues on foot. Along the way, they come across a group of bandits attacking a helpless merchant and his young son. The bandits quickly take notice of Gold's radiant golden armor and panic, realizing they've messed with the wrong people. Nemu scolds Gold for drawing attention again, but he just laughs and effortlessly ties up the bandits, leaving them incapacitated. Overwhelmed with gratitude, the merchant thanks them profusely and offers the group a ride in his carriage to Dogas. As they travel together, the merchant's son excitedly praises Gold and Nemu for their incredible strength, but Nemu proudly tells him that their master is even stronger than they are. The merchant, curious about their journey, asks if they're adventurers planning to explore the famous Dogas dungeon. Light explains that they're not registered yet, surprising the merchant, who then shares some information about the region. He explains that Dogas is a border town of the Dwarven Kingdom, neighboring the Human Kingdom to the east and the Elven Kingdom to the south. While the three nations have a long history of conflict, the Dogas dungeon has attracted adventurers from all over the world due to its valuable treasures. By the time the merchant finishes his explanation, they've reached the city gates. As Light's group steps out of the carriage, the merchant introduces himself as Colonel and kindly offers them a place to stay at his inn, free of charge. Grateful for the offer, Light thanks him and leads his group toward the Adventurers Guild. Along the way, they pass by numerous dwarven blacksmith shops, each one displaying masterfully crafted weapons and armor. When they enter the guild, the trio is taken aback by how crowded it is, though they soon notice that everyone is avoiding them. Humans like Light are not well received in this city. Nevertheless, Light proceeds to register as an adventurer. The receptionist assigns him an F rank, the lowest starting rank, which instantly infuriates Nemu. She begins yelling at the receptionist to give her master an S rank instead, but the receptionist nervously explains that everyone must start at the bottom. Before the scene escalates, Light steps in and accepts his F rank, preventing Nemu from causing further embarrassment. Realizing her mistake, Nemu starts crying, feeling guilty for making her master look bad in public. Gold teases her for being overly emotional, and Light has to stop him from making things worse. After completing their registration, the group heads to Colonel's inn. His son eagerly leads them upstairs to meet his father, who warmly welcomes them again. Light asks if it's possible to rent out the entire top floor of the inn for complete privacy. Colonel tries to refuse the generous bag of gold Light offers as payment, saying he can't accept money from someone who saved his life. But Light insists. Reluctantly, Colonel agrees to the arrangement. Once they're in the top room, Light casts multiple layers of protective and isolation spells to ensure complete secrecy. As he relaxes in his chair, Nemu nervously asks if it's really safe for him to expose himself by being on the surface. She suggests he stay hidden in the Abyss Fortress and let them handle the dangers of the outside world instead. Her words, however, anger Light deeply. He stands up and asks if she intends to stop him from personally avenging his family. Realizing her grave mistake, Nemu immediately falls to her knees and begs for forgiveness. Light's cold glare pierces through her, creating a tense silence, until Gold bursts out laughing, lightening the atmosphere. The tension fades, and Light sighs, helping Nemu back up. Still ashamed, Nemu insists on renewing her pledge of loyalty as an apology. Kneeling, she kisses her master's feet as part of the ritual, which embarrasses Light, though he lets her finish out of respect. Gold, on the other hand, jokingly wonders if Nemu is secretly enjoying the act, completely ruining the solemn mood. The following day, the trio heads to the Dogas dungeon. As they walk through the busy streets, people stare at Light's strange mask, making him realize that his disguise might not be perfect. When they arrive, they discover that many adventurers have already lined up to enter, forcing them to wait. Gold comments on the lack of elves in the queue, and Light explains that the Elven Kingdom and dwarves are at war over control of the dungeon, so tensions remain high. Nemu praises Light's sharp deduction skills, but presses her body against his back as she does so, claiming it's necessary to protect his rear. Their moment is interrupted when a shady group of hooded adventurers cuts in line. Observing them carefully, Light deduces that two are weaklings, while their leader is dangerous. Some other adventurers murmur complaints, but no one dares speak up. Light steps forward politely and asks them to return to their place in line. The elf leader scoffs, asking if Light knows who he's talking to. Light calmly points out that he doesn't, considering their faces are hidden under hoods, and if the elf truly held high status, he shouldn't be acting in ways that would tarnish his family's name. Gold and Nemu back their master, warning the elf to step aside. Offended, the elf reaches for his greatsword, but his partner stops him, reminding him not to cause a scene. Begrudgingly, the elf backs off, and the surrounding adventurers thank Light for defusing the situation. As things calm down, the party in front of Light apologizes for not having the courage to intervene earlier. Light reassures them that it's fine. He simply removed an obstacle for everyone. The group relaxes, and one of them curiously asks if Gold's armor is really made of solid gold. Before their leader can stop him, Nemu explains that it only has a golden color, since real gold is too soft for battle armor. Amused, Gold confirms her words proudly. The young adventurers also ask if this is Light's first dungeon run, and he admits it is. They point out that most adventurers bring extensive camping gear, noticing that Light's group seems underprepared. Once it's their turn to enter, the kids wave goodbye and disappear into the dungeon. Before stepping inside, Light discreetly tells his team to take out some supplies from their magic storage to maintain appearances. Entering the dungeon, Nemu marvels at its massive scale and structure, amazed at how every dungeon seems to have its own unique ecosystem. Light mentions that the key to understanding a dungeon lies within its core, though even top researchers like Ellie have failed to fully comprehend it. Gold jokes that with Nemu tagging along, they probably won't uncover any secrets either, prompting Light to tease him back by saying he's equally useless in that regard. As they journey deeper, the atmosphere changes dramatically. The cold, dark corridors give way to a lush, vibrant forest, teeming with strange wildlife. Gold admires the beauty of their surroundings, while Nemu observes that no other adventurers seem to be nearby. Preparing for exploration, Light casts concealment and buff spells to enhance their abilities, and the group takes to the skies to scout from above. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the dungeon, the arrogant elf from earlier, whose name is revealed to be Kaido, rages against a horde of orcs, venting his frustration over his earlier humiliation by Light's group. Cutting down the monsters with fury, Kaido shouts that he deserves more respect, claiming to be the youngest White Knight of the Elf Kingdom and the descendant of a legendary hero. His butler, a dark elf named Yana, calmly reminds him that their objective is to reach the 3rd floor, not waste time slaughtering beasts. Enraged by his butler's tone, Kaido turns his blade toward him, shouting that the only reason he's not more respected is because his level is capped at 1500. Yanuk points out that Kaido has already surpassed the typical elf level cap, but the young master refuses to accept it, insisting that someone of his bloodline should possess limitless potential. Pretending to sympathize, Yanuk reminds Kaido that he too was exiled from his homeland for experimenting on ways to break the level limit. When Kaido demands that Yanuk help him level up further, the dark elf grins sinisterly and agrees, though Kaido secretly plans to kill him once he's outlived his usefulness. Back on the 3rd floor, Light's team finishes slaying a group of trolls and collects their magic gems as proof of their exploration. They decide to head back to the surface, with Nemu offering to help clean the dirt off her master. Once they return to the 1st floor, Light suggests walking since Gold's shining armor draws too much attention. Along the way, they spot the young adventuring party from earlier struggling against goblins. Gold remarks that the kids are strong enough to handle such weak monsters, but Light notices a hidden danger they've overlooked. Before the young adventurers realize what's happening, Light swiftly strikes, pinning down a camouflaged bush snake that had been waiting to attack. He warns them that if the snake had bitten one of them, its venom would have paralyzed them completely, leaving them vulnerable to stronger enemies. The kids thank Light profusely for saving them, but his expression suddenly darkens as he senses another presence. From a distance, a pack of bush wolves emerges, surrounding them. The kids panic, but Light calmly tells them not to worry. The wolves aren't the real threat. The beasts rush past harmlessly, avoiding the group entirely. Before the kids can comprehend what's happening, a massive shadow looms over them, a 4-scythed mantis behemoth, an ancient monster species thought to have gone extinct over 10 years ago, towers above them. The children stare in horror, realizing that the real battle has only just begun. The kids wonder how the Montes appeared, since its species supposedly went extinct over 10 years ago. And as they prepare to run away from the monster, Light casually asks if he can just hunt it for himself. Nemu warns him that the Montes is level 500, and the kids insist that Light's group should leave because they think the creature is too powerful for them. Before they can argue further, the Montes charges, and Gold takes the lead, blocking its attack with a heavy clash of steel and chitin. After exchanging blows, Gold quickly realizes this is not an enemy he can underestimate. Light follows up with a fire arrow spell, but the insect reflects it with its hardened side, sending sparks across the field. Watching this intense battle, the leader of the kids urges his mage, Mia, to support them, but she becomes distracted, amazed that Light cast magic without chanting. He snaps her back to focus, but Gold reassures them that he's perfectly fine and tells the kids to watch closely as he uses both offense and defense to defeat the monster. As if provoked, the Montes attacks again, but Gold blocks the strike with his shield so forcefully that it shatters the monster's scythe, leaving it stunned long enough for him to rush in and slash off one of its legs. Light then decides it's his turn, unleashing a barrage of fire arrows, over 30 homing arrows swirling around the battlefield. The Montes desperately tries to deflect them, but the arrows bend midair, avoiding its sides and piercing into its back like a rain of burning needles. Overwhelmed, the monster tries to retreat, but Light traps it with a blazing firewall, forcing it to leap into the air. At that moment, Nimue propels herself upward with ease, reaching an even higher altitude, and with her daggers gleaming, she slices the Montes cleanly apart in a single stroke, reducing it to shattered fragments. Feeling proud, she begins bragging, only for Gold to mock her for acting like a child. When he reminds her that she ruined all the monster materials with her reckless slicing, she panics while the kids stare in awe, shocked that Light's group defeated such a terrifying creature so effortlessly. After Nimue apologizes to Light, the kids search through the remains and miraculously find a perfectly intact monster gem. Gold praises their luck, relieved that Nimue didn't accidentally destroy it. Light assumes the core will be enough proof for the guild to increase their rank, but when the kids ask if they're a rank-up party, he tells them they're actually F rank, which sends the entire group of kids into an existential crisis. Mia then conjures a giant water bubble to help Light's group wash off the blood and dirt, and while Gold compliments her magic, Light steps up to clean his hands and invites everyone to join him. Grateful, the kids say it's the least they can do since he saved their lives, and they offer Light a place to stay for the night. Light hesitates, not wanting to burden them, but the leader admits that his sister Mia is desperate to ask Light about his incredible magic. So seeing her hopeful expression, Light agrees and joins them around a campfire for dinner. While they eat, Mia listens intently as Light explains that his parents were genius mages and that she herself has considerable magical talent. Embarrassed, she insists she's not nearly as impressive as someone who can cast voiceless spells, so she begins enthusiastically explaining the 3 classifications of magic: combat spells like fire arrows for single targets, tactical spells like Firewall for crowd control, and the rare strategic spells capable of global destruction, so powerful they require multiple high-level mages chanting together like a ritual. She explains that races like Dragonutes, Elves, and Demonkin naturally possess powerful magic, but humans are not as gifted, which is why she thinks Light is a world-class prodigy for casting chantless magic despite being human. Gold nods approvingly, while Light awkwardly tries to brush off the praise. When the conversation shifts, Mia's brother remarks that regardless of Light's power, he seems like a genuinely kind person, and he encourages Mia, saying she'll surely succeed after getting into the Duchy's legendary magic school. Light grows curious about the Duchy, a nation formed cooperatively by all 9 races, and Gold comments that Mia must be incredibly talented if she was accepted into the best magic school in the world. But her brother then reveals the sad truth. Although Mia was accepted, she couldn't attend because their parents, who would have paid her tuition, died during an epidemic, leaving the 2 siblings to fend for themselves by forming an adventurer party with Gimra and Wordy to earn money. Still, her brother stays hopeful that someday he can save enough money to send her to the academy to fulfill her dreams. Feeling guilty, Mia tells them not to worry so much about her, and Light, watching the 2 siblings care for each other, remembers his own little sister. He encourages them not to give up, firmly believing they have the talent to rise to the top, and Mia blushes when he specifically compliments her abilities. When the leader asks Light why he became an adventurer, Light recounts the story of the fire that killed his family. Nimue explains that the fire left Light with severe burn scars, and she and Gold are traveling with him because Light's family once helped them, and this is their repayment of that kindness. After hearing Light's tragic past, the lively atmosphere becomes somber, so Gimra tries to lighten the mood by teasing Nimue and Gold about being a couple. Nimue instantly denies it, saying she'd never fall for a narcissist like Gold, and Gold retaliates, saying he'd never like a brat like her. Gimra then shoots his shot by proposing to Nimue, but she proudly declares that her heart belongs to Light, prompting Gold to angrily call it a waste to dirty their master, and the two continue bickering late into the night. Elsewhere, Kaido slices down a monster while Yanak praises him, but Kaido gets irritated, complaining that his legendary sword, Grandius, was meant to slay heroes, not cut through weak creatures. Yanak calmly reminds him that he needs all these monster samples for experiments related to breaking the level limit. With enough samples collected, Yanak decides they need to begin gathering human specimens next. A few weeks later, Light returns to the Adventurers Guild with a mountain of rare materials, and the receptionist fawns over him for providing such precious items. Nemu proudly claims their master deserves an S+ rank, but Light ignores her overenthusiasm and simply asks for the payment. As they leave, his servants notice how much friendlier the guild has become, and how the people whisper in awe about the group that defeated the terrifying Montes. Feeling secretly pleased by his growing fame, Light is confused when a group of adventurers asks if he's from the Black Lily, the nickname the townsfolk have given his party. Nemu steps in aggressively, suspicious of their intentions, but the adventurers, Suvalin and Gilbert, reassure her and explain they only want to know how Light reached the deeper floors and defeated the Mantes. Gilbert expresses doubt that the rumor is true, which enrages Nemu, causing her to hold a dagger to his throat. Suvalin quickly explains that they're just excited, not hostile, and says that seeing powerful humans gives people hope. His party calls him back, so he leaves, while nearby adventurers from other races scoff at humans for having such delusions. Seeing their disdain, Gold tells Nemu that they'll silence critics with results. When Light's group reaches the dungeon entrance, he suggests heading straight to the 5th floor, but they spot Mia's group nearby and descend to greet them. Mia, shy and nervous, steps forward and hands Light a healing cream she made for his burn scars, apologizing that it won't cure the wounds fully, but will help ease pain. When Light pauses to think, she panics, believing he doesn't want her gift, but he accepts it warmly. Wanting to repay her, Light draws a card from his gacha and materializes an elegant bracelet, an SSR wish bracelet capable of granting a heartfelt desire. Mia hesitates, but with gentle encouragement, she puts it on and beams happily, vowing to treasure it forever. That night, Nemu asks if it was wise to give such a rare item to Mia, but Gold says it was the right thing to do since it was a genuine exchange of kindness. Reaching the snowy 5th floor, they note the lack of people, and while Gold likes the quiet, Nemu mocks his shining gold armor for ruining stealth. Light instructs them to hunt yetis, and then teleports home. At the palace, his 4 maids greet him joyfully. Mei serves tea and asks about his trip. Ellie reports that preparations for the final war are nearly complete, and Mizuna eagerly asks what her special mission should be. Knowing she's too unreliable for anything complex, Light tells her to simply guard the castle. Mizuna, impatient for her own role, demands Ellie finish her preparations quickly. As Light sips his tea, he looks forward to the day he finally destroys Sasha. Meanwhile, Suvalin's party rests on the dungeon's 3rd floor. Suvalin asks Gilbert what he thinks of the rumors about Light, and Gilbert says it's impossible for a human to be that strong. Suvalin reminds him that Mia witnessed everything, so Light might actually be a reincarnated hero, a thought that fills them with hope for the human race. Later, Suvalin goes into the forest to relieve himself, but when he returns, he finds Gilbert's severed head on the ground, and Kaido standing beside it, irritated that Suvalin took so long. Horrified, Suvalin realizes the elite elf killed his entire party in moments. Kaido mocks him, crushing Gilbert's head while demanding Suvalin get angry, but Suvalin, staying level-headed, uses a smoke grenade to flee. He believes the elf won't be able to track him through the smoke, but Kaido easily spots him and hovers through the air using flight magic. He knocks Suvalin down effortlessly. Before Kaido can finish him, Yanak knocks Suvalin unconscious with his rod and scolds Kaido, furious that he killed all the humans. Yanak needed live subjects for his experiments. Kaido argues that 1 subject should be enough, but Yanak insists he needs many, because failures are possible. Smiling with twisted delight, the Dark Elf declares that humans are nothing but worthless vermin, perfect fodder for his cruel research. Meanwhile, Light and his party returned to the Adventurers Guild after a few days. The moment they arrived, Nem demanded that the receptionist immediately promote Light to S rank, because, in her opinion, he didn't deserve anything less. The receptionist nervously explained that such a thing wasn't possible because the guild followed a strict ranking system. She reminded Nem that they had already made an exception just a few days ago when they promoted Light straight to D rank after he killed the Scythe Mantises. However, Nem's constant harassment overwhelmed her, and eventually the receptionist caved, saying that if Light achieved another major feat, he might earn yet another promotion. Light liked the idea and decided to pursue the rumored adventurer hunter who had been targeting only humans. That night, he told Gold and Nem about his plan, and they agreed that capturing the adventurer hunter could indeed secure him a promotion. Unfortunately, they had no clues about where to begin their investigation. As they brainstormed for ideas, Light suddenly noticed someone approaching them. He immediately put on his mask as his friends prepared for combat, and then a portal appeared in front of them. They waited eagerly for an enemy to emerge, but instead, Maya fell out of it. Light caught her and saw that she was battered and exhausted. At that moment, the bracelet he had given her snapped clean in half. He carried Maya to bed as she weakly murmured that she needed to hurry and tell Light everything. He healed her injuries first, then decided to look into her memories to learn how she had ended up like this. He saw that, just yesterday, some adventurers had warned Maya's party about the adventurer killer who was targeting humans exclusively. They advised the children to leave the dungeon immediately, and the party leader agreed. They began heading toward the exit, but even after night fell, they were still only halfway. The leader saw how exhausted everyone was and considered whether it was safe to set up camp. When they came across another party with completely concealed faces, Maya suggested that they should warn them about the danger. Her brother agreed and delivered the warning. Little did they know they were speaking directly to the adventurer killers themselves, who began casually remarking that they should have cleaned up their previous mess better. The children were confused by this cryptic comment until the dark elf Jun began laughing at them and calling them stupid. The party leader was still trying to understand the situation when Kaido drew his sword and declared that they themselves were the adventurer killers, and Maya's group would be their final target of the day. Only then did the children realize they were facing their worst nightmare. Even in that moment, however, Maya's brother and his two friends told her to run while they held back the racist murderers. They charged at Kaido, who was insulted that mere human brats dared to challenge him. He immediately slashed Maya's brother, then took down the other two boys in a single merciless strike. Maya was terrified and devastated. Yet the boys refused to stay down. They rose to their feet again and urged her to run away and fulfill her dreams. They charged once more, and Kaido instantly cut them down again. Maya screamed helplessly. Yan scolded Kaido, saying that he needed the humans alive for his experiments. Kaido retorted that any insect who dared fight him deserved death, and pointed out that he had left one alive. Yan reluctantly accepted that and approached Maya, but Kaido commented that he wanted to have some fun with her first. Jun told him to do as he wished and left, while Maya trembled in fear. Kaido mocked her, saying she should be grateful that a future legend like him was willing to use a filthy human. Maya couldn't even speak, but suddenly her brother rose again, telling her to run. Yan was impressed by his determination and told Kaido that he wanted to preserve the boy for experiments. But Maya's brother understood he had no chance of surviving his wounds. Still, he intended to risk his life to save his sister. He told her to run and live a long life, and in desperation she obeyed. Yan ordered Kaido to capture her, but Kaido grew irritated because he didn't want to take orders from anyone. He decided to finish off the boy first. The boy murmured the words Gold had once told him. Battles were about creativity and skill, and he had a chance to show his skill. Kaido dismissed his muttering and didn't even bother paying attention, but the boy suddenly threw his sword at Kaido's face, catching him off guard. Kaido narrowly dodged it, but that was only the setup. The boy bashed him with his shield, knocking him to the ground. Enraged that a human had damaged his pride, Kaido launched a spike of white light straight through the boy's chest. He stepped forward to finish him off, but Yan intervened, insisting that they capture the runaway girl before she alerted anyone. Kaido reluctantly agreed. He chased Maya and quickly blocked her escape with blades of light. He mocked her for disrespecting the wielder of the legendary Sword of the Elves and conjured more blades, using them as steps as he descended. Maya, determined not to waste the sacrifice her brother and friends had made, fought back and fired icicles at him. Kaido easily blocked them, but became furious at her attempt to flee and slashed her leg, ensuring she couldn't run. He leered at her, saying she would now have the great opportunity to please a future hero. Maya mocked him, calling him nothing more than a bully who hurts the weak. She said the only person she had ever met who deserved to be called a hero was Light. Her words struck Kaido deeply, reopening old wounds. After all, he had been called a bully by other elves his entire life. When she called him a spineless loser, he snapped and sent blades of light to kill her. In desperation, Maya wished for a way to escape and reach Light, because he was the only one who could help. Her bracelet granted that miracle and teleported her directly to his room. Now that Light knew her entire story, he told Nem and Gold that they needed to move immediately. Back in the dungeon, Kaido returned to Yan, who was healing Maya's brother, still barely alive. Yan asked what happened to Maya, and Kaido replied that he assumed she had teleported there to save her brother. Yan exploded in frustration, demanding how a former member of the powerful White Knights could lose to a mere human girl. Kaido grew angry, saying he couldn't have known she possessed a teleportation item. Hearing that made Yan panic. He realized that if Maya reached the guild and told them everything, the elven country would quickly learn of it and send the White Knights to arrest them and reclaim the legendary sword Kaido had stolen. Kaido lost his composure upon hearing this. He knew how powerful the White Knights were, especially their captain, who was over level 3000. He stomped the ground in frustration, but Yan reassured him that if he completed his research, Kaido could break through his level cap and surpass even the White Knight captain. Hope returned to Kaido, and Yan insisted they needed to find a safe location to continue his research. But before they could move, Light arrived and told them they weren't going anywhere. The elves recognized him from before and were shocked at how he had appeared behind them so silently. Light ignored them at first, putting the two boys to rest. Gold brought the injured leader to him and remarked that his wounds had been poorly healed. The elves were stunned. The boy had been taken from right under their noses without them even noticing. Light healed him quickly and said that none of the boys deserved what had happened. They had lived honest lives and only wanted to earn enough money to send Maya to the Magic Academy. Now it was too late. Light muttered that they could have been friends if things had gone normally, and he was furious that he had lost that because of the elves. He swore he would punish them. Yan tried to defend himself, claiming they weren't criminals and that he had healed the boy after finding him badly injured. But Light revealed that Maya had reached him and told him everything. The two elves panicked, but Light assured them he hadn't informed the guild yet. Kaido suddenly burst into laughter, saying it was his lucky day. Now he only had to kill Light, and no one would ever know what happened. Light grew furious and declared that he wouldn't let the guild capture them because they were his prey. He released a murderous intent and told them he would rip them apart with his bare hands. Then he ordered Nem and Gold to stay out of the fight, and they obeyed without question. Light advanced toward the elves. Kaido, enraged by his confidence, lunged at him and swung his sword with full force. Light effortlessly blocked it with his staff. Kaido was stunned, but attacked repeatedly, and Light blocked every strike with ease. Yan was in disbelief, while Gold and Nem scoffed that Kaido was a weakling who couldn't even control his rage. Light himself became annoyed with Kaido's sloppy anger, parrying one attack so forcefully that Kaido lost his balance. Light struck him hard in the chest, knocking the wind out of him. He mocked the elf, saying he had expected better. Infuriated, Kaido stood and unleashed the full power of his legendary sword, firing blades of light. Light dodged the first blade, which hit the ground and transformed into an ice crystal. Surprised, Light realized the blades were enchanted with different elements. He kept dodging, though he noted that they were too weak to harm him, even if he stood still. Suddenly, Kaido appeared behind him midair and struck with all his might, but Light blocked it easily. Yan was speechless. No human should withstand a level 1500 elf like Kaido, yet Light was clearly overpowering him. Kaido, frustrated and desperate, accused Light of being a swordsman, pretending to be a mage. He threw a tantrum, calling him a cheater. Light calmly replied that he truly was a mage. Kaido refused to believe him, so Light summoned hundreds of ice swords in the sky without any incantation. Kaido froze in intimidation. Desperate, he launched more magic swords, but Light countered each one precisely with his icicles. Yan could not believe what he was seeing. Such precision was something even the strongest elf mages couldn't achieve. Kaido kept attacking with magic swords, but Light used his icicles as a barrier, flawlessly defending himself. Kaido screamed that Light must be cheating because he couldn't possibly defeat the holy sword Grandius, a weapon bestowed upon an old maestro by the heavens. Light was surprised and asked how Kaido knew that name. Kaido arrogantly laughed and said he knew because he possessed the blood of a maestro and was known as a submaestro. Hearing this, Light immediately changed his plans. It was the first time in ages he had heard any information about the maestro. He told Gold and Nem that instead of killing the elves here, he would capture them and take them to the abyss, where he would use every method possible to extract every grain of information from them before rendering judgment. But that's where this episode ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. He is kicked out of the heroes party for being useless, but it turns out he has SSS ranked skills in everything, aside from fighting. Kurt is a 15-year-old boy from a village hidden deep within the mountains, a place so remote that no one has ever heard of it. Ever since he was a child, he dreamed of becoming an adventurer. With hope in his heart, he traveled to the city and managed to join an S-rank adventurer party, though only as their errand boy. While the other members of the party fought powerful monsters, Kurt would get knocked out before the battle even began. Despite this, he took great pride in being part of a party hailed as heroes by the world. That pride shattered one day when the party members told him he was fired. Kurt was aghast at the shocking news and asked what he had done wrong. The party leader coldly told him that he hadn't done anything at all. And that was precisely the problem. According to the laws of the world, a party could only have 4 members, and they needed to make room for a high-ranking mage who could actually contribute. Kurt pleaded with the leader to let him stay, only to be kicked in the stomach and knocked out. When he regained consciousness, he realized he was living the cliché story of the loser who gets thrown out of the hero's party. Luckily, Kurt didn't spend time whining about it. He immediately headed to the next city and visited a temp agency to look for a job. As soon as he entered the building, he was greeted by an overly excited receptionist who jumped straight into interviewing him for employment. She was surprised to learn that he had just been fired from the party that had recently been promoted to SS rank. Kurt became depressed while talking about it, but the receptionist quickly tried to cheer him up, saying it would actually look great on his resume. She then took him for an aptitude test to check for any hidden skills, but all his combat-oriented scores came back as garbage. This disheartened Kurt even more. The receptionist informed him that the specialist who could test his non-combat skills would return next week. Kurt meekly admitted that he was flat broke. Feeling sympathetic, the receptionist decided to give him another chance and asked him to lift a sandbag lying in the corner. As Kurt picked it up, he felt it sucking in his mana and becoming incredibly heavy, prompting the receptionist to urgently tell him to drop it. Seeing that he had basic strength and fitness, she suggested he try construction work to earn some money, and Kurt gratefully accepted. At the construction site, a grumpy man glanced at Kurt's resume and then skeptically at his thin, twink-like body, before reluctantly agreeing to hire him due to severe understaffing. He told Kurt that his task was to mix cement and repair the city walls, warning him that if he couldn't use up half a barrel of cement in 3 hours, he would be fired. Without waiting for questions, the man left. Remembering how things were done in his village, Kurt decided to enhance the cement with magic to make it stronger. 3 hours later, when the grumpy foreman returned, he was stunned to see that Kurt had already plastered 30% of the wall and used up all the cement. He couldn't believe a noob had accomplished so much in so little time. Mistaking the shock for anger, Kurt immediately apologized, but the man told him to keep working as long as he wanted. He even handed over his entire purse to Kurt and promised to send the remaining payment to the temp agency within 3 days. Kurt went on to single-handedly plaster half the city wall, causing panic among the other workers. Noticing the chaos, the foreman approached Kurt and told him not to come back the next day, not because he was being fired, but because there wouldn't be any work left for others who needed the money more. He handed Kurt the rest of his payment and advised him to find work that matched his abilities in the royal capital. Full of self-doubt, Kurt assumed the man was just trying to get rid of him. He returned to the temp agency and sadly informed the receptionist that he had lost his job. At that moment, a tanned beauty could be heard arguing with another receptionist about a job offer. Kurt's receptionist went over to speak with the girl, named Ulia, who was looking for a miner to explore a mountain, but would only pay if something valuable was found. The receptionists told Ulia her offer wasn't reasonable, but Kurt, desperate, asked her to hire him since he had mining experience from his village. The receptionist warned him that there was a good chance he wouldn't get paid, and even Ulia commented that she had been looking for a strong dwarf, not a twink. However, since she had no money to hire a dwarf, she agreed to take Kurt along. As they left, the receptionist began fantasizing about hiring Kurt as her submissive boy toy, when suddenly her colleague informed her that the construction boss had sent Kurt's remaining payment. When she saw the check, 200 gold coins, she was flabbergasted and tripped over the sandbags. Her colleague helped her up and explained that the sandbags were special devices used to measure magical capacity and could only be activated by those on the level of royal mages. When she tried moving them again, they didn't react at all, making her wonder just how powerful Kurt really was. Meanwhile, Ulia took Kurt to her base on the mountain and informed him that they would be sleeping in the same tent that night. Kurt became flustered, worried he wouldn't be able to control himself around such a cute girl. Ulia lost her cool when she heard him call her cute, as he was the first guy to ever say that to her. After teasing him for trying to butter her up, she gave him dinner, a single boiled potato. To Kurt, it was delicious, as it had been a long time since someone else had cooked for him. That night, as they slept in the same tent, Kurt felt his sword rising when he saw Ulia sleeping defenselessly. Being a gentleman and a bit of a wuss, he went outside to rub one out and ended up falling asleep there. Unbeknownst to him, Ulia had been testing him to see if he was better than a bear. His gentlemanly behavior and cute looks stirred something in her. The next morning, Ulia found Kurt sleeping outside and noticed that he had repaired her coat during the night. As she admired his skills, Kurt woke up and Ulia got straight to business. She explained that they needed to earn 10 gold coins by the end of the week, but she had no idea how to find anything valuable in the mountain. Fortunately, Kurt did. Using his knowledge, he quickly located a rock containing crystals worth 3 gold coins, leaving Ulia in disbelief. In just a couple of hours, Kurt gathered a large number of crystals, but he explained that they wouldn't sell for much due to their small size. He then decided to turn them into magic crystals. Ulia was shocked, as craftsmen capable of doing that were incredibly rare. Before she could protest, Kurt had already finished crafting one. She was further stunned when she learned that it typically took an hour to create even a small magic crystal. Kurt, however, wondered how masters could use magic for an hour without getting tired. Ulia decided to head to the city to sell the crystals, while Kurt stayed behind to explore the mountain further. At the night station, she showed the crystals to the guards, and, when asked for documentation, presented a pendant. The knights were shocked, recognizing it as proof she worked directly for the royal family. They immediately allowed her to use the teleportation device to travel to the royal capital, unaware that she no longer held that position. In the capital, Ulia visited her friend Mimiko to sell the crystals. At first, Mimiko claimed they weren't worth much since they weren't glowing, but after examining them closely, she offered 10 gold coins for one. Ulia was stunned. Mimiko explained that the crystals contained 10 times more mana than usual and didn't glow because they weren't leaking any. When Ulia revealed she had 49 more, Mimiko bought them all immediately. After the deal, Mimiko asked about the creator of the crystals. Ulia refused to reveal Kurt's identity without his permission, even when Mimiko, the royal court mage, tried to command her. In the end, Mimiko asked her to ensure the craftsman didn't leave the country and to inform him that he could receive a noble rank and a position as a court mage if he agreed to serve the kingdom. Ulia returned to the city the next morning and rushed to the temp agency to ask about Kurt. Although the receptionist tried to protect his identity, Ulia used her royal pass to access his file and was stunned by everything he had already accomplished. She ordered the receptionist to never share Kurt's information with anyone, deposited the full proceeds from the crystal sales into Kurt's account, and returned to the mountain. To her utter shock, Ulia found that Kurt had built an entire house from scratch within a single day. Even more baffling was that Kurt didn't think it was a big deal, since people in his village did things like that all the time. Inside the cottage, Ulia informed Kurt that he had been offered the position of director of the Royal Magic Technology Research Lab, along with a noble title, all because of the magic crystals he had created. Kurt was stunned, but when Ulia asked for his decision, he humbly refused. He admitted that he didn't see himself as someone worthy of commanding others, and that he was enjoying life as a freelancer. Feeling slightly self-conscious, Ulia admitted she had made a large amount of money selling the crystals, but since she had contributed nothing, she only took 1 gold coin as commission and deposited the rest in his account. She then asked Kurt to work with her again, so she could properly earn a commission selling his crystals. Excited, Kurt told her he had found another good mining spot and began preparing his tools. However, Ulia stopped him, concerned that he must be tired. Kurt replied that he had slept a full 6 hours, which completely confused her. She couldn't understand how he had rested so well after building an entire cabin in a single day. On the other hand, Kurt misunderstood her reaction and thought she was upset because he had slept too much. After all, he had only slept 4 hours a day when he was with the S-rank adventurer party. After that, Kurt led her to the new mining spot and advised her not to dig deeper than 50 meters. Leaving her there, he returned to the previous spot where they had found the crystals to continue his work. A few hours later, Elysia successfully unearthed a football-sized topaz and was thrilled by her own success. She then went to check on Kurt, mentally prepared to see another cave, but was utterly shocked to discover that Kurt had built an entire proper mine inside the mountain. The mine even had glowing moss on its walls, eliminating the need for additional lighting. As Ulia was freaking out, Kurt casually walked in carrying a crate full of rocks. Curious, she asked him how his work had gone, silently praying he wouldn't hit her with yet another unbelievable surprise. Kurt, slightly disappointed, told her that he had only found a small amount of the mineral he was looking for, and that the rest of the rocks were just useless stone. Ulia felt mildly relieved until Kurt revealed that the useless stones were called mithril. She was completely dumbfounded. In his village, mithril was so common that people would throw it away, but Ulia felt her brain short-circuit because mithril was more valuable than platinum or diamond. Overwhelmed, she collapsed to her knees in disbelief. After gathering herself, she asked him what the other rare mineral was, and Kurt handed her a sample of orichalcum. Ulia immediately recognized it as the legendary metal of the gods and asked how he had possibly found something so rare. Kurt casually explained that orichalcum could be found anywhere in the world if one dug deeper than 7 kilometers. Ulia didn't even have the energy to be surprised anymore and simply asked whether he had actually dug 7 kilometers and returned in the time it had taken her to mine a single gem. At that moment, golden rays of sunlight streamed into the mine from the opposite side, and she realized that Kurt had dug a tunnel straight through the entire mountain. Even though it was a feat worthy of legend, she accepted it as a normal occurrence when it came to Kurt. Fortunately, the tunnel could now serve as a shortcut between the village and the nearby city, drastically reducing travel time. Ulia decided to charge licensed merchants a maintenance fee to use the tunnel, which would be more than enough to cover all her taxes and expenses. A couple of days later, Kurt went to the city and ran into Bandana, one of the members of his old party. Overjoyed, he asked if the others were with her. However, Bandana revealed that she had left the party after Kurt was expelled. She explained that the party had been struggling ever since. Things took a turn for the worse when their leader threw a tantrum because he disliked the food at the most renowned restaurant in the city. He trashed the place and left without paying, prompting the guards to hunt him down. Knowing the situation was doomed, the leader ordered Bandana to bring Kurt back so he could cook for them. Bandana pretended to agree and took Kurt's teleportation stone under that pretense. However, she knew the leader would soon be arrested, and with their healer being summoned by the church, there was no reason for her to return. She didn't share any of this with Kurt, and simply told him that she had been fired as well. This upset Kurt, reinforcing his belief that someone like him could never belong in that party again. He admitted that he had always looked up to the party leader, which made Bandana scoff, as she knew secrets about him that no other member did. Wanting to change the subject, she told Kurt that she was now a freelancer just like him, and suggested they help each other out. Bandana explained that one of her friends, a renowned 8th tier maester and one of the 15 master craftsmen of the kingdom, urgently needed help. She asked Kurt to assist, and he couldn't bring himself to refuse. Following the directions on the map she gave him, Kurt arrived at the master craftsman's workshop and was greeted at the door by a cute elf. At first, he assumed she was the maester herself, but she introduced herself as Michelle, the assistant. Michelle cheerfully led him inside as he explained that Bandana had sent him. However, the moment Kurt stepped inside, he regretted his decision. The place reeked worse than any bachelor pad he had ever encountered and was in complete disarray. Michelle casually told him that she needed his help cleaning the place. Kurt quickly realized he had been called in for chores rather than real crafting work. Just then, Michelle was summoned to the workshop, leaving Kurt alone with the mess. Not one to back down, Kurt pulled out his cleaning supplies and in just 30 minutes transformed the filthy kitchen into a spotless haven. Curious, he followed the hallway and knocked on a door. A voice told him to enter, and he did, only to find a girl undressing inside. Mortified, Kurt tried to avert his eyes, but the girl didn't mind at all and calmly greeted him. He noticed a curse mark on her stomach and, worried, asked for permission to examine it. Sensing that she was in poor condition but still healthy enough to feel hunger, he decided to prepare something light for her to eat. Meanwhile, Ulia had taken the mithril and orichalcum to her friend Mimiko, who appraised their combined value at over 50,000 gold coins. Both women were stunned by the sheer worth, and Mimiko wondered how someone like Kurt could have remained unknown for so long. Ulia admitted she didn't know either, but revealed her plan to make Kurt a maester and become his personal bodyguard. The biggest challenge, however, was that Kurt severely underestimated himself. Back at the workshop, Kurt finished preparing a light porridge for the cursed girl. Just as Michelle returned to the kitchen with her master, Alia, both were shocked to find the kitchen spotless. Kurt quickly apologized for using Alia's kitchen without permission and explained that he had prepared food for the cursed girl. Alia made him swear not to tell anyone about her existence. After paying Kurt for the day, she sent him away, though she felt uneasy about letting an outsider meet someone so important. Afterward, Alia returned to the girl's room and helped her only student, Liz, get dressed. Alia insisted on testing the food for poison, but Liz refused, saying she trusted Kurt. Reluctantly, Alia agreed, and Liz ate the porridge. She praised its taste but suddenly groaned in pain and collapsed. Panicked, Alia believed she had made a terrible mistake. As Alia rushed to retrieve an antidote, Liz suddenly stood up and announced that the curse had been lifted. She showed Alia that the mark on her body had completely vanished. Alia was stunned. She, a master craftsman, had been unable to lift the curse. Yet Kurt had done so through food alone. Without wasting time, Alia brought Liz to Mimiko's shop in the capital. When Mimiko asked why they had come, Liz revealed her face, causing both Mimiko and Ulia to immediately fall to their knees. Liz was none other than the third princess of the kingdom. Alia explained that Liz's mother came from a neighboring country, and that Liz herself was the sole reason peace was maintained between the two nations. Liz had been cursed in an attempt to incite war, but that curse had now been broken. Alia asked Mimiko to help investigate who had cast it, but Mimiko was far more interested in how the curse had been lifted. Liz smiled and revealed the name of the man responsible, Kurt. At that, both Mimiko and Ulia freaked out once again. Somehow, Kurt had managed to involve himself in yet another world-shaking incident. Liz explained that the curse had disappeared after she ate the porridge Kurt had prepared. Ulia was left utterly stunned, wondering just how many impossible feats Kurt had accomplished in the mere 6 hours she had been away.